Hello, everybody. This is Scott Long with WiSys. We also have Aaron Armendariz as a panelist on the call with us or the webinar with us today. I have everybody muted. Maybe we'll open it up for some questions at the end, or at least some chat questions. And I'm recording this session, so everybody who's registered is going to get a link to it. And we'll get going here in about maybe one or 2 minutes here. All right, so we'll get going, and like I said, I'm recording this, and everybody will get a link to the video when we're all done. I'm not going to PowerPoint everybody to death. I want to get into actually starting to show you the product. We have a few different modules. We have Agility Essentials, which really does pretty much all the standard SAP Business One transactions. Receiving, putaways, bin transfers, sales order delivery, pick and pack, pick lists, production transactions, and so forth. We use all the SAP tables. We don't have separate tables for our data or transactions, with the exception of pallets. But everything else uses the standard Business One tables for inventory, batches, serials, serial numbers, bin locations, items, and all that. So when you do a transaction in our system, it updates or does the transaction in SAP Business One immediately. Also, with our Essentials product, we have a label designer that's included, so you can design ZPL language labels and different size labels and so forth. So that's part of our Essentials module. We have a pallet module where we can create and track pallet license plates, build pallets, move pallets around the inventory around the warehouse, print labels, and so forth. And then we have a fulfillment module, which lets us load and ship those pallets as well as cartons, print bills of lading, UCC 128 labels. And when we create the sales order delivery in Business One, we update the packing slip information, which are behind the scenes, the DLN 7 and 8 records, which is really where all the EDI add-on solutions get the packaging information. And typically, our fulfillment module could be used for companies that ship to for large, complex shipments, to maybe shipping to a lot of distribution centers for the big box stores and so forth. We have a desktop component which allows you to create workspaces and grids and runs within Business One or outside of Business One. So you can actually process some transactions on our desktop, view data, create production work center dispatch reports, do some analytics and so forth. And we'll be looking at some of those as we go. We have design tools, and these design tools are what we use to develop our software, which also could reside on your system. So if there were customizations that were needed, or new screens designed for your specific needs, we or you or your partner could use our design tools. And then part of our design tools is our desktop, as I mentioned previously, our desktop grids, and our design tools are used for those to design the grids and put logic behind them as needed. So with that in mind, this is just going to be a 45, maybe 60-minute session. So I'm going to go through our functionality fairly quick, but thorough. And feel free to ask for a follow-up or detailed demonstration at a later date. So what I have going on here is I just have an emulator for my handheld device, and taking a look at Business One. Within Business One, there's all kinds of options, and I'm not going to get into all the details of them, but just some simple things like, do you want the expiration date for batch items to show up on the handheld device for the operator to fill in? Do you want the manufacturing batch number as well as your batch number show up? We have a tool that lets one, say for batches or lots on production orders, you can have the system, when you do a transaction, automatically define a batch number or a serial number, based on your specific rules. And I just have some of the options here where you can build some things together. If we want to have date and time, so when we do a production order and we're doing a production completion for a batch, the system is going to populate the batch number automatically. We have this document management, which is part of our essentials, which allows one to tie together, to use our label designer and call labels like a PO receiving label. You can also take a crystal report and call it from the mobile device. And in this case, for this sales order delivery, I just exported the SAP crystal report for my sales order delivery packing slip, and then I had to change the data source location, and then our tool could use this. And if you notice, we have the ability for these reports and labels. You could have many of these labels, and you could have them defined for inclusion or exclusion. So you could have a generic item label per se, and then for real small products, you have a real small label. And same with customers and customer groups and item groups. You can have different labels and reports linked automatically, so when a transaction is done in the warehouse or anywhere, the proper report and or label prints. As far as user authorizations go, we use the SAP Business One authorizations behind the scenes, and either with an indirect license or a full professional or limited license. What we have the ability to do here is, obviously for my demo, I have a lot of the functionality turned on, but for the mobile devices, you can pick and choose by user what they see on their mobile screen. Like I said, for my demonstration, you're going to see a lot of information or a lot of options. So we'll take a look at maybe the purchase order receiving. What I have set up in here is really just a bunch of crystal reports with the labels. I mean, with the document barcoded. So I have a version in this case of my PO receiver with all my information barcoded. And when I go to do a transaction, obviously this is the handheld screen, which could also be a tablet or could be running from a desktop like I'm doing. We have options here, and we could define, like in this case, a default receiving bin is at the dock, and we have some other defaults here. We also have the ability for multiple languages for that mobile device. So if I have this specific user is more comfortable to do transactions in a different language, we support that. So doing a transaction, I have just a USB scanner sitting right here. We would scan the order number, my item. You see it skipped over the bin because I had that as a default. And then I would key in my quantity. Next item, skipping over the bin, my quantity, the final item here. And then the way I have this set up, it mimics SAP, where then we're going to do a post. We can also do posting transactions on each specific line if we wanted to. I have a label associated with these goods receipts, so it printed off 3 of these labels for each of the items that I scanned, and obviously you can have some different logic here to print off 9 labels or what have you. And like I mentioned earlier, the transaction happens immediately in Business One as soon as we do hit post. We have a put away transaction. Since I received everything to a dock, the put away transaction is just simply a bin transfer in SAP, where I could take those items that I just received and I could process those. The system offers immediate feedback. If there's an invalid item that was scanned, I have the ability to do a lookup. I could select an item and so forth. We support the standard transactions like I mentioned before, the inventory, goods issue, receipts. If I want to transfer from one warehouse to another, bin transfer transactions, inventory transfer requests, and then we'll get into the sales order deliveries and some of these other functions here, shortly. Since we're talking about purchase orders, I just wanted to show you a purchase order grid where you can actually have different formats of this set up. So here I'm looking at all my purchase orders. If I just wanted to see the open purchase orders, I could. I have the ability as a user to move columns around. I can do group buys and so forth. And then obviously we can hyperlink to a purchase order. And I have some other things set up here where I can add a purchase order from this screen or do a purchase request. We also allow for what we call composite transactions, which is really chaining multiple SAP Business One transactions together. And we could do it on a grid, or we can do it on the mobile device. So what I have here is a purchase orders for warehouse 4, which is my in transit. And I have set up, and obviously I can change my quantities, but what this is going to do is if I receive a notice from an overseas vendor, I can actually process my PO receipt, which will take care of accounts payable, and then the system is automatically going to create a warehouse transfer request. So for those 2 purchase orders, I did the receipt, and I have my warehouse transfer request sitting here waiting to be received, and maybe I would put a date on here of when we expect it to hit our location. So then the purchase order is taken care of, the inventory sitting in an in-transit warehouse, which we own, and then as we unload the container, we would be doing an inventory transfer request. We support the SAP Cycle Counting transactions. So my mobile device, I could actually print a barcoded count sheet out, give it to somebody. I have inventory counting by bin or by item. I have it this set up by bin. Again, I would scan this. I could scan a bin, validate the item. I can put the count quantity in here. And as soon as we hit enter, it updates SAP. If I'm on bin A12 and I come across a different item, it knows it's not part of this count sheet. It's asking me whether I want to add it to the count sheet. I could say yes, say I found 5 of them, hit enter, and it added it to the count sheet. So again, a little time saver here for the person who's doing the counting. They don't have to go back and update the, and have somebody else update the count sheet. They could just do the transaction on what they actually found. And then this just simply updates the SAP counting screen document. And then you would just follow your SAP Business One rules for copying and posting and doing your variance reporting and so forth. We support all the production transactions. If we had manually issued components, we can issue them, batch serialized or just manually issue. We support the production receipt transaction. So I could be here, scan my order number. I have everything going to a production area, staging area. And then I could just say, hey, I completed 5. And as soon as I do that, I could get a label or labels. And it updates SAP immediately. I did 5 and then change it to 6. We also allow for pallet production. So I have an item out here, order 357. What pallet? I'm starting a new pallet, production order 357. It's batch tracked. And I'm going to put 6 on a pallet. So I'm doing a production completion transaction on 357 right here. I'm printing off a label. And again, I could print off 6 labels, 1 for each carton if I chose to. And I have the ability to print a pallet license plate right from here once the pallet is filled. We have another composite transaction. We call it production backfill. So I have a parent item FD010. Say this is a process I don't need to create a production order ahead of time. I just tell somebody go ahead and kit 10 items or make so-and-so items, or maybe this is a process where somebody's just going to be making items. So here I can say what bin it's going to, and let's just say I'm making 12 of these, or I made 12. Process the transaction. I'm printing a label. And what this just did was it created a production order. It released it. I had everything set for backflushing, so all my components issued. I completed 12, and then I closed the production order. So that's like 5 steps that we chain together in this. So going back to this goods receipt PO to show us some of the design tools, we have our label designer here, where we have our goods receiving label that I created and used. Labels can get very complex. We have a UCC 128 label. And obviously this could be used as a starting point for your needs. Our pallet production label that I showed you. So through our label designer, you can really have as many labels as you desire. This screen, this goods receipt screen, if I looked at my Form Studio, my design tool, I can see all my functions that show up on the handheld or the mobile device. And then here's my goods receipt PO, which here's my mobile device I demonstrated on. So you can see how this looks is how we created this. Since we're using all the SAP native tables, you can also use user-defined fields in here, as well as tying information in the user-defined tables. And you can do little SQL snippets and so forth as needed to populate this. And you can see expiration dates here. There's some logic that says, hey, if I have that flag turned on that I showed you earlier, show my expiration date if it's batch tracked. When I hit the post button, I have it posting the transaction, printing my label that's in the PO receiving, and clearing it out and adding it to the next one. So we have the ability to create all of our transactions through this forms tool. We were looking at the production order just before, just to show you another workspace. I have a production resource workspace that I created. Again, we could have different formats of it by user, where I'm looking at it by resource. So here I can use this as like a work center dispatch report, where I can see my presses. I can see all the production orders at that press. I have my hyperlinks. I can go into those production orders from here. Moving on to sales, I have various workspace grids in the sales module. Here's one that shows we can do some things with alerts with different colors for past due and unapproved. And then I have a lot of different views where I'm looking at it. Here's all my orders. And again, I have the ability to, maybe we move dates around. I could do totals by shipping type. I can say, show me all the orders in the UPS select. Show me all the orders in the UPS, and so forth. And then the way I have this set up is I can create my pick and pack manager pick lists right from this screen. I could just simply highlight all of those orders and say create a pick list. I could also create a pick list with multiple orders on one pick list. And now let's talk about some various ways that we can ship product out the door. So I have a few different shipping options set up on my demo here. I could simply do a sales order delivery, which doesn't use the SAP Pick and Pack Manager pick list, where I can just have the pick list barcoded, have someone scanning. They would scan the bin that the item is in. How many did they just pick or pack for that order? Scan the next item. I could do my lookups here. Scan the last item. Partially ship. I could do my posting. And as soon as I do the posting, it updates SAP by creating the sales order delivery. And that's a pretty simple example. We also support the SAP Pick and Pack Manager pick lists. So in this example, I printed off, I created a pick list with multiple orders on it. And when we create pick lists, we just use the logic that's in the warehouse master. Through our tailoring or customization, we could change the logic as needed. So if I were to use my directed picking, I have my pick list number 195. It's telling me to go pick that item, and it's telling me what bin to go to and how many to pick. And as soon as I update that, it updates SAP. So now we see as the picking occurs on the floor, the picking is happening in SAP. It's telling me to stay on that item and in that bin because I have the other order is calling for it. And I would just, it's guiding me to the whole process. And you can see it just took me to another bin and another item. When I press delivery, it's going to create a sales order delivery in SAP, one for each different ship to address. So if I had a bunch of orders out here for different customers, it would create a delivery order for each of those. If I had multiple sales orders for the same customer and the same ship to, it would create one delivery order and tie all those sales orders to one delivery order. And again, there's some options there on how that could work. Some other functionality that we have with our pallets. I mentioned we did a pallet there for that production order. Here's an order that I shipped previously, but I can take a look at my pallet license plates that were on that specific order, pallet 247. As mentioned, when we created the delivery order, I can look at the packing slip detail, which actually has that specific package number on there, and then I would see all the different items that were in that package, and that package could be a pallet or a carton. Through our pallet module, we can build pallets from scratch and just build pallets and move them around in inventory, transfer it around, print additional labels as needed, unload pallets, do pallet letdowns. If we're going to take a pallet over to a fulfillment area and break the pallet down so we could ship out individual components, we can. We can pack pallets for an order. So in this case, I have an order 692. I'm going to create a new shipment and a new pallet. I'm going to scan my item. I would scan where I'm getting it from. And I'm going to put all 40 of these on one pallet. So now it just created me pallet 250, shipment 80. So if I were to look at this order, I could see that this pallet, or if this was a carton, I could see the cartons and pallets that have been packed for this. We have a fulfillment manager tool or screen where I can take that shipment that I just did of those 80 and I could view it on here. I have the ability to build out shipments from here too. I don't have to use the handheld. If I had a big order, say 40 or whatever, pallets or a bunch of pallets and cartons going to a specific customer, I could build that shipment through using these tools right here. I could then also go ahead and print off all my labels at one time. So if I had a massive shipment going to a Walmart distribution center, it could be built on the floor. I could come into here, print labels out, or I could just build it here, pack a specific carton out and say duplicate that. And then from here, I can actually print a bill of lading. And when that bill of lading prints, it does the sales order delivery behind the scenes in SAP and updates those packing slip tables. So you could see, this is again a short demonstration of our capabilities. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of flexibility and functionality that we support. To go over our pricing, the mobile handheld licenses are $1,800 to $2,300 each, and I'll go over that here in a second. The desktop grids that I showed you are between $500 and $750 each. And the essentials, like I mentioned earlier, these are all the standard Business One transactions, as well as our label designer, and to be able to integrate into the Crystal reports. When we go to our professional edition, that includes the design studio and the form studio, where I showed you that we can design those grids, or you could design grids, as well as the handheld screens to make changes to those forms or design new ones. And the enterprise is essentials, the design tools, plus the agility pallets and fulfillment. And down here is a little footnote. Once you get above 25 users, the price goes to $900 each on the mobile. So we have this priced pretty competitively. Then what I also wanted to mention is we have a handful of queries that we built that we can run on our customers' environments. And then if you want to run it on like one of your demonstration databases, that's a copy of your live databases, I could run these with you. But it just shows you record counts on, the different types of adjustments that are being done, looking at inventory, a bin heat map, what bins are being used and what types of transactions are using them. A nice little query that shows expired batches, as well as batches that are due to expire, time phased out, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And then another one that shows us sales order counts, how many orders, how many credit memos, how many returns, how many orders were shipped short, and some things like that. And what we use that for is to help with, one is determine some volumes, but also give you the ability to see maybe where some of the issues are with your current processes. We have a lot of web resources. Obviously, you can contact Aaron and myself. We have a YouTube channel where we have a lot of our documentation and training information on there. So we actually have most of the functionality that we have is just right here. You can actually see a short video of how those functions work. We have a solving problems section where we just show you some tips and tricks of how you can use WiSys Agility to make things run a little bit quicker. We have a hidden cost calculator. It's just short 7 or 8 questions to help figure out some of your costs and exposures to some of your transactions that you're doing, and again, help with the justification process. So that concludes this webinar. You're going to be getting a link to the recorded session. Feel free to contact Aaron or myself for some follow-up. If you want a detailed demonstration for you or your customer, be more than happy to do that. We usually have a strategy session first where we discuss your needs, come up with some of your pain points, and then we take that information and we prepare a demonstration unique to you and your organization to show you how WiSys Agility WMS for SAP Business One could help you. So this concludes the webinar. Hope everybody found this informative, and again, looking forward to working and talking with you all in the future. Thank you.